Fabian Lysell is getting another look.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, March 19th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today on the podcast, we are going to discuss the recall of Fabian Lysell ahead of the Bruins' 5-game Western road trip that will take them to Vegas, California, Detroit. I guess that's still considered West. And we will also discuss kind of the direction for this team, look at some quotes from Don Sweeney from earlier this week in terms of the priorities for the rest of the season and looking forward. And key to a quick turnaround, in my mind, will be a return to form from Jeremy Swayman. And if that doesn't happen, then the Bruins are kind of in trouble. Anyways, we'll touch on that later. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, if you listen to yesterday's podcast, I mentioned the fact that it appeared as though the Bruins were going to roll out the rest of the season with a more veteran-laden tweener lineup with your Patrick Browns, Cole Koepkes, Vinny Lettieris in the lineup over recalling some of the kids from Providence who you kind of want to see what they might be able to do at the NHL level here if you're wanting to give them a look next season, see what they can do in this context and get a better idea of what they're able to do at the NHL level. Well, right after that, lo and behold, the Bruins recalled forward Fabian Lysell from Providence on an emergency basis. And that emergency basis, I believe, was the fact that Elias Lindholm was missing from practice on Tuesday before they headed out on this road trip. And it's also to have some extra bodies on the trip. Michael Callahan, the defenseman, was also recalled from Providence. Now, Lycelle may not be the first guy that you think of as being worthy of a call-up at this point. He's not the leading scorer on the Providence Bruins. That would be Georgi Merkulov, who's got 48 points in 52 games. Vinny Lettieri, who's already up, he's got a better point per game average. He's got 48 points in 46 games. Patrick Brown, he had 44 points in 52 games before being recalled by the big club. And even in between those guys and Lycelle, you have Tyler Pitlick, who was recently signed to a two-way deal, who's got 38 points, and John Farinacci, who has 34 points, tied with Lycelle, who has through 51 AHL games this season, 11 goals, 23 assists for 34 points. And his production is a bit down from what he has achieved in his first couple seasons in the AHL. In 54 games, 2 seasons ago, he had 14 goals, 23 assists for 37 points. Last season, took a bit of a step forward with 15 goals and 35 assists for 50 points. Not likely, that was in 56 games, and now he's got 34 points in 51 games. So why now? Why Lycelle? We've touched on why now, but the Lycelle question is definitely worth asking. You've had Georgi Merkulov up already, and he did not do much in his time up with the Boston Bruins. He has appeared in 10 games, 6 this season, with only 1 assist to his credit. Lycelle, for his part, has the 1 game so far this season at the NHL level, 1 game total in the NHL, and has yet to record his first point as a member of the Boston Bruins. Now, in practice on Tuesday, again, this is with Elias Lindholm sidelined in what was called a maintenance day. We'll see if he's able to go for tomorrow night's game in Vegas. That's a game we'll preview, of course, on tomorrow's podcast. But I believe Lycelle was skating on the third line. Let's just bring this up here via Fluto Shinzawa, who is usually pretty plugged in when it comes to the line combinations. I know I've been struggling with the pronunciation of the new guy, Marat Hudnustinov. Maybe I'll just start calling him Marat. Shout out to YouTube commenters for trying to set me straight on that pronunciation. But yesterday in practice, Lycelle was skating on the third line with Jacob Lauko and Husnudinov, with the top line, of course, intact. Geeky, Zaka Pasternak, Kepke, Middlestat, Lettieri on the second line, then Beecher, Kostelic, Brown. So if Lindholm is able to go, perhaps he's back on the third line with Lauko and Huzi. Let's just call him Huzi. But if not, then we might see Lycelle step back in there for the game tomorrow night against Vegas. Now, speaking of Fluto, he had written an article the other day talking about how it was probably wise to keep the likes of Fraser Minton, Matt Poitras down in the AHL to keep them away from what's likely to be a pretty losing environment here for the rest of the season. The Bruins are kind of wink, wink, losing on purpose. This is his 3rd season as a pro since he was drafted 21st overall in 2021, and kind of time is running out for him to make a positive impression. He's built to be a scorer at the NHL level. He can skate like the wind. He's got a pretty nice shot. If he's able to stick with the Bruins for this 5-game, 12-day road trip, it will give us more of a glimpse of what this kid is able to do. He said yesterday, you want to stick around. He thought he played pretty good in that one and done promotion earlier this season. He said he's back. He's very excited. Joe Sacco noted the reports from Providence are all positive as far as his game goes. Not just offensively, but his 200-foot game, his play away from the puck, his ability to stay on pucks, that you need to see from some of the young players. It's good that he's getting an opportunity, and Sacco said at some point we will see him in the lineup on this road trip, which is, they're bringing along some extra forwards or an extra forward. If Lindholm is bagged up, then Lycelle will jump in, but even if not, he may still get an opportunity. Now, the thing with Lycelle is that he can become he still has this season and next on his entry-level contract, which is great because there was some slide there. So if they can get some value out of him and really turn him into an NHL player, they could add him to the lineup next year on the cheap, which would allow them to spend elsewhere. We know that they have a need on the wings. The Bruins, they've lost 3 straight, outshot each time. The Bruins brass anxious to learn whether he continues to merit roster consideration. If they have the patience that they've showed in his development has paid off. It is telling that the Bruins brought up Lycelle instead of Fraser Minton or Matt Poitras. they don't want to toss Minton or Patra into a losing environment. And they are called upon to develop into NHL centers. Lycelle at the wing can be a bit more sheltered, and he can, be deployed with some guys who might be able to open things up for him and make things easier for him while he is up with the club. So, what they're trying to focus on is getting some shots on goal. Their focus, Joe Sacco said, is the fact that there are a bunch of teams between them and the wild card. But they're still in the thick of things. He wants them to understand nothing changes for them as players in terms of their mindset and as far as how they prepare and get ready for games. So Lycelle going to be called upon here to chip in offensively, to make a good impression, and to prove that he is worthy of being a Boston Bruin here moving forward. So it's going to be very interesting and something to stay up late for here on this Western Conference road trip that begins in Vegas tomorrow night. Now, we'll touch on some more priorities for the rest of the season, as well as one of the keys, I believe, to a quick turnaround next season. And we'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. There's nothing like checking out live basketball, from the sound of the sneakers on the court to energy of the crowd, maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new features, like Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. And I love the view from your seat, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the arena. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So Joe Sacco is preaching to the Boston Bruins that still an opportunity here to grab a playoff spot, and that their mindset should be going out there, grabbing those 2 points each and every night, and trying to finish strong. Which, is not the worst idea. But it's not the worst motivational tactic. Not likely to happen. And again, Fluto Shinzawa in his article yesterday looked at priorities that remain for this basically lost season. Land a high first round 2025 draft pick, albeit kind of organically, not tanking on purpose, but they are kind of tanking on purpose with the lineup that they have and by trading off all those guys a couple weeks ago. Shelter what few prospects they have from the head bashing that remains. That's why you see specifically Patra and Minton still at the AHL level, with Lycelle being called up because you can maybe shelter him a bit more on a winger with some guys who can protect him, like a Jacob Lugo. And identify who among the current bunch can be part of future iterations and who can hit the door. Now, I did mention that the Bruins do have a ton of cap space coming up this summer. They brought in some players who look pretty good so far, including Huzi, Lauko, Casey Middlestat, Henry Jokiharju. I think Jokiharju, who's an unrestricted free agent, should be someone they look at. He's looked pretty good so far, paired with Nikita Zadorov. You get Hampus Lindholm back. You get Charlie McAvoy back. You could have a pretty good defense there between Lohrei, McAvoy, Lindholm, Peak, Zadorov, Jokiharju. That's not too bad. But there will be some money to spend, and the Bruins, are looking to see if Fabian Lysell can fill one of those wing holes so that they don't have to invest too heavily on that position. Now, you look back to last summer, they lost Danton Heinen, Jake DeBrusk, James Van Riemsdyk. They didn't really replace those guys, and we were kind of promised that they would try to fill those spots internally and give some young kids a shot. They've given Merkulov and Lycelle a grand total of 7 games at the NHL level this season and have kind of floundered with trying to find people to fill those wing spots between Cole Koepke, Max Jones when he was here. Trent Frederick had a pretty down season before he was traded. Justin Brazeau in and out of the lineup as well. They just really haven't had anybody step up and really grab hold of that, save for Morgan Geekie, who, as I mentioned yesterday, 23 goals so far this season, albeit on an 18.5% shooting percentage. But he is proving to be a guy that you want to keep around. He's now second on the team in goals scored, 2 more than what Brad Marchand had recorded before he was traded. He's got 23 goals, 37 points in 64 games. You'd like him to maybe chip in more when it comes to playmaking as well, although he had that beautiful assist the other day where he set up a David Pastrnak goal. Pavel Zacha goal. David Pastrnak's playmaking really on display here by boosting Morgan Geekie's goal totals. But apart from that, you have, Zacha with 14 goals. Lindholm with 12 goals. Both of those guys are centers. Your next highest scoring winger is Cole Koepke with 9 goals. Mark Kastelik with 5 goals. They're not really getting enough scoring from that wing spot. So that's why Lyselle's up over Merkulov or Patra to get some offense coming from the wing and see if you have something in him moving forward. But make no mistake, even though Sacco's preaching, we're still in it. Keep fighting. Let's keep our skates on the gas. If you're driving with skates on, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's not looking too good when you have so many teams that you need to jump with so few games remaining. 13 games remaining on the schedule, and they have the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets, the Islanders, and Rangers, and Canadians to jump just to get into the second wildcard spot. That is held right now by the Montreal Canadiens, who, despite having a negative 16 goal differential, are in that second wildcard spot, one up on the Rangers with 2 games in hand. The Islanders are 3 points back, and they have 15 games remaining. Same with the Blue Jackets. The Red Wings 3 points back with 14 games remaining. The Bruins 4 points back with only 12 games remaining. So it doesn't really add up for a Bruins comeback here. Now, for them to have a quick turnaround next season and get back into a playoff race, or to even have any hope of finishing strong this season, there's one guy that really needs to turn things around, and that's Jeremy Swayman. And we'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be available to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. There was an interesting article at Boston.com the other day, courtesy of Connor Ryan, picking Don Sweeney's brain about the newcomers into the lineup, Middlestat, Huzi, Yoki Haru, also the departures of Brad Marchand, the franchise pillar, and Charlie Coyle, Brandon Carlo, seemingly waving the proverbial white flag on this season. He said they lost quality people, quality players that are well established in the league, but their scouts did a fabulous job identifying some players that are younger, that in a new environment and a new opportunity, likely to get a bump out of that. We've already seen that from Middlestat, Huzi especially, and Jacob Lauko has looked good back in black and gold as well. Now, the one guy, though, that really needs to turn things around, that will rest on their star players. David Pastrnak, there's no questioning his leadership, his superstar ability, his presence, and again, his ability to raise the level of play among his teammates, his line mates. Hart Trophy caliber play for him, in my opinion, this season. But they'll need Elias Lindholm to step up, and they will also need Jeremy Swayman to turn things around and get his save percentage back above 900. And Sweeney said, Sway's the only one that can honestly tell you how it's gone and how the situation has changed for him. It's been a very up and down campaign, losing Linus Ullmark as his tandem partner, bringing in Jonas Korpisalo. The hope was that he would rise to the challenge of being the 1A guy. Both Swayman and Ullmark wanted to be the man. Ullmark was traded. They eventually signed Swayman to a contract extension that caused him to miss training camp. That can no longer be seen as a real excuse at this point. You've had plenty of reps, plenty of practices. Sweeney said they all felt it would be different, would be a challenge. The team hasn't played well in front of him. It's not all on Swayman. And he's had pockets of games, Sweeney said, where he's played really well. Other times where Sweeney thinks Swayman would admit he hasn't lived up to what he'd hoped and the type of year everybody wanted him to have. He's really the one that can answer in terms of how he feels about being in this position now as the clear bona fide starter for the very first time in his career. It was a publicized contract stalemate. Swayman talked about wanting to reset the market. I don't know if there was some resentment. Marchand, when he was here, always said he didn't want to talk contract publicly. Swayman kind of went the other way and was very open about wanting to reset the market for goaltenders, wanting to be paid like a number one goalie. Cam Neely came back with the 64 million reasons. They eventually landed on the 800 plus million. And Sweeney basically saying you'd have to ask Swayman why it hasn't gone as expected, but obviously nobody is happy with his level of play. Yes, Hampus Lindholm has been out since near the beginning of the season. Charlie McAvoy's been out since Four Nations. Nikita Zadorov has had a bit of a slow climb to establishing himself as a positive member of the blue line. But Swayman is the last line of defense, and he needs to be a guy who steps up next season if they have any chance of a quick turnaround. Sweeney added, they have their work to do. There's no question. The Bruins have some areas they need to address moving forward, i.e. down the wing. Still needing a top line center. You signed Lindholm, $7.75 million. He's being deployed on the third line right now. That's not great. He said, Sweeney did, that it would be better if they were healthy to have a complete understanding of how the puzzle is going to fit. But they have to do a better job of supporting and bringing players around that are going to play the identity of what this fan base expects and get back on track. He admitted as well they're not out of it. It's a hill to climb that's obviously more difficult than they expected, but a playoff spot technically is still grabbable. Let's see if they can get it done. And again, if there's any chance, it needs to begin with the play of Jeremy Swayman in net. The Bruins' next game is tomorrow night against Vegas, Bruce Cassidy and the Golden Knights. That's a game we'll preview on tomorrow's podcast, as well as bring you all the latest on the black and gold. Please do check out the Locked On NHL podcast next. All the latest from a league-wide perspective from our local experts. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.